Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Consensus with Canonizer. Uh, Brent is traveling, and our not experts are not experting today. So it's Kelly Casaday and Jim Bennett head to head, and this is going to be what are we going? How much are we going to fight today? Do you think?
I don't know. I think this is one of the most controversial topics we have ever discussed. Feelings are going to be hurt, and somebody's going to go home crying.
I think someone will go home crying. I think that is very likely. But as the intro music may have told you, and we played that by way of parody in case somebody wants to come and sue us. I think that was fair use. We are going to be discussing our favorite movies today. And we just thought this would be kind of fun to talk about because this is the very sort of topic or the very sort of thing that Canonizer is designed to discuss and is designed to build consensus on. I mean, the idea of what your favorite movie is entirely subjective, and there is no objective right answer to what the best movies are except for the ones that are on my list because I am authoritative and I know this better than anybody else who has ever lived. So, Kelly, I just wanted to get that out of the way.
I appreciate that, and I would like to make one correction. The authoritative list is mine.
Oh, that's the one correction is that
Yes.
you have the authoritative list.
Yes, my list is exactly 100% accurate. Behind me also is a fair use, I believe, of an uncopyrighted version of Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush.
Is that on your list?
It isn't, but it is a very good movie.
Well, it's always hard for me when people start talking about like really old movies and they say they're really good movies and they probably are for their time. But for instance, whenever you look at like a 10 best movies of all time list, Citizen Kane is always on that list somewhere. And I went maybe 50 years of my life without ever seeing Citizen Kane. And I finally went, okay, this is supposed to be such a great movie. I'm going to sit down and watch it. And I watched Citizen Kane. And my reaction to it was, oh, okay, I can see why this is considered such a great movie. Because when you watch it, the camera angles, sort of the visual construction looks very much like a modern movie. I mean, it was 40, 50 years ahead of its time.
Yep.
In terms of how it did all of that. And so I can appreciate that and go, okay, that's impressive but just for pure entertainment value, I don't ever want to watch Citizen Kane again. I have absolutely I didn't really think it was all that entertaining when I watched it. From a technical point of view, I could see why it's whatever it is. But so it's always difficult to sort of rank the best movies because you have to define the criteria and all of that kind of thing. So it's much easier, I think, to just say, what are your favorite movies? Because the criteria are entirely your own and you don't have to justify them to anybody. And but it would be really fun if we had a lot of people on Canonizer go in and say, okay, well, this is my favorite movie. And you could see consensus forming around some of these great movies. So do you want to begin with your list or do you want to begin with mine?
Yeah. And like, if we were to have a list of movies that set standards for future movies, that would be completely different than my favorite movies. And Citizen Kane would probably be on that list. But alas, it is not on my favorite movie list. So let's go to Canonizer. How about that?
Let's do it.
So on the front slider, the first one that's going to show up is what are your favorite movies? I'll click on that, scroll down and give a little background of why we chose this topic. I was reading a New York Times column that was written by Melissa Kirsch over the weekend. And she was talking about the definitive ranking of the best movies so far of 2025. And she noted that La La Land was not on the list, but it was on the list of the favorite movies of the Times readers who they did a poll. And so that got her discussing what makes a favorite movie. And so, sorry about my dog. And that also led me to think of the topic and what my favorite movies are. So I'm going to go to Casey's top movies and scroll down to the agreement camp, click on that, go to the consensus tree. And here are my top 10 movies. I should have done it like David Letterman and gone backwards, but I'm just going to start 1 through 10. And we can discuss each one wherever you want to do it. Jump in when you want to say something. My favorite all-time movie is Christmas Vacation. And the reason it's there is not because of its technical expertise. It's not there because it's the best acted movie. It is very funny, I'll give it that. But more than anything, it's a holiday tradition in my house that we've been doing since the movie came out. And we bought it on VHS and then on DVD, and now we have it in our digital library. And we'll watch it in the Christmas season 3 or 4 times. And it always brings laugh. We'll quote it as we go along. And that's why that one is my number 1 movie. And with that, I'm going to the popcorn bowl.
Well, it's funny that you talk about the traditions because we have a tradition every Christmas Eve. After we go up to my mother's house, there's a big family sort of shindig, and then we come home and we open one present on Christmas Eve. And after we do that, we gather around the television and watch A Christmas Story. Are you a fan of A Christmas Story?
I'm a big fan of A Christmas Story, but I only thought I could put one Christmas movie in my top 10 list. Now, if it were my top 10 of Christmas movies, that would probably be number 2.
Yeah. I didn't put Christmas Story on my list, but when you're talking about traditions, there isn't any other movie, I think, that is so ingrained in tradition in the Bennett household than Christmas Story. Can I just push back a little bit on Christmas Vacation? Well, not really push back.
Absolutely.
Tell me what it is. Well, let me reveal my hidden agenda. I am of the era where the original Saturday Night Live cast is just a huge part of my childhood and my adolescence in many, many ways. You know, not just Saturday Night Live, but when they moved on and they all sort of made the jump to the big screen,
Yep.
all of those movies were iconic. I'm thinking of things like Ghostbusters, particularly.
Yep.
Caddyshack, which is on my list. Ghostbusters is not. Ghostbusters is closed. But you go through all of those, and Bill Murray is usually featured prominently in them. Groundhog Day. In fact, now I'm talking about Groundhog Day. I want to go back and add that to my list. Love Groundhog Day.
Great movie.
So all of these guys were just sort of iconic. Dan Aykroyd shows up in a bunch of stuff. I have very limited affection, if any, for Chevy Chase. I find Chevy Chase largely insufferable. And yet I have Caddyshack on my list because there are 2 movies where I think that use Chevy Chase appropriately. One is Caddyshack. The other is Fletch. Fletch was sort of designed perfectly for Chevy Chase's, I think, very limited talents. But the vacation movies, Chevy Chase to me just comes across as so smarmy and just insufferable. You just want to punch him in the face every time he's on screen. And on Christmas Vacation, it's especially grating for me because he's trying to play this great happy family man, and you can tell that he has contempt for the character that he's playing, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. And I agree with you.
Griswold is somebody that Chevy Chase just can't stand. And so watching him play him without affection, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me.
So, to show how ingrained this is in our family, we had a dog named Griswold who has since passed away. Now we have a dog named Margot because of the wet carpet, and my daughter's is cousin Eddie, who I think is the best character in Vacation.
Yeah, I think so too. And Randy Quaid doesn't hate his character the way Chevy Chase does.
He embraces it.
Yeah.
And then my mom's dog, we named that Ruby Sue. So like it's ingrained in our family, and you can degrade the movie, but it's not going to take it off my number one list.
All right, fair enough.
What's your number? Do you want to go through mine, or do you want to say what your number one is?
I didn't write any of this other stuff on it. I just put the list.
Okay.
So yeah, you're presenting here. Do you want to just go to mine?
Sure. Let me back up here. Go to consensus tree. Go to Jim Bennett's. There it is, and close it.
I think you will be surprised. I mean, can you guess what you think it might be?
I don't know. It's not. I'm not showing. It's not showing up. I'm having a technical difficulty. So why don't you just tell me?
Oh, did I not add the camp support?
If you did, I don't see it.
Okay, I am going to add. So here. Oh, it's sitting here. I haven't committed to the changes. So what I'm going to do, this is fun. Since I haven't committed to the changes, I'm going to start with my number 10 movie and just publish that.
Okay.
And I've committed to the changes. And you can probably pull it up now.
Yep, there it is. Superman, 1978. Good show.
Oh, well, so this is a bit of foreshadowing. Further on this list is a movie that I just saw last night, which is very, very rare. But it's a movie that I had been looking forward to. I was dreading it not being good. And it turned out, I had very high expectations for it. It exceeded all of my expectations. And that's Superman 2025. It's the brand new Superman movie. We went to an advanced screening for Amazon Prime holders. My daughter has Amazon Prime, and we used her membership to get in. But comic books really sort of, again, defined my adolescence. And I remember when I was 10 years old, seeing Superman in a movie theater. Christopher Reeve embodied Superman in a way that was just absolutely perfect. I mean, one of the things about reading comic books way back in the day is that you would see all these amazing visuals that you knew were not possible in a movie theater. CGI didn't exist. And if you go back and watch Superman 1978, those are all practical effects. Mm-hmm. And they don't hold up that well, but they're not embarrassing. I mean, it's amazing what they were able to do given the limitations. And so to be able to see Superman brought to life and to see a sort of real world version of Superman just thrilled me to my bones. And I've gone back and revisited Superman many times. Every superhero movie, I think, owes a huge debt to this movie. And I love a lot of superhero movies. I love a lot of Marvel movies. None of them have the same sort of iconic impact. This is one of the cases where, the fact it's got a Citizen Kane sort of thing to it, in that it was the first, it broke ground, and so I think deserves some merit in that regard. But it just brings me back to being a kid again every time I watch it, and I didn't appreciate this at the time, but there is one moment in Superman where Superman is waiting for Lois Lane. Clark Kent is waiting for Lois Lane to change, and he takes off his glasses and he straightens up and he says, "Lois, there's something I need to tell you." And he's going to tell her that he's Superman, and then he sort of chickens out and hunches back over again. And it's such an amazing piece of acting, because you believe every second of it, and you also believe that it's possible that somebody wouldn't recognize Clark Kent as being Superman with the pair of glasses, because he so completely sort of transforms his whole persona, and he does it so. I mean, it's just so wonderful, and it's just so heartfelt, and it still holds up, even if the special effects don't necessarily. So that's my number 10. So let's jump back to your list. I'll put number 9 on here.
Okay. And I think that was a great movie. I remember watching it when I was a kid. It was fantastic. A guy really flew. You could, like, there was no doubt that he was flying.
Right.
But, you know, again, now it's different, but at the time it made an impact on me too. Which brings me to my number 2 for the same reason, and that's Star Trek. When Star Trek Episode 4 came out, oh my gosh, the world changed. And the effects, like, I think this set the standard for effects.
Star Wars, you mean, not Star Trek.
Star Wars. I'm sorry. Yes, Star Wars. Fantastic movie. And like, I'm one of those who don't complain about all the other like, there's some things on Disney Plus that I think are awful, but I didn't mind Jar Jar Binks. I don't like him as a character. I think he's stupid, but like, I think it was fine to have him in the movie, but because I like all the Star Wars movies now. I'm a fan.
Well, and again, Star Wars, I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to sort of separate the cultural impact and how iconic that is from the quality of the actual movie. I'm of the opinion that there is a Star Wars movie on my list that is not the original Star Wars, and I hate people. I don't hate people, but I hate it when people refer to it as A New Hope. Right? They don't want to say, "Oh, Star Wars." It's like, well, Star Wars is the whole series, but that movie is Episode 4, A New Hope. It's like, it wasn't when it came out. It was Star Wars,
yeah,
and it was amazing. I consider that the number 2 Star Wars movie of all time. And
what's
the
your number one? Wait,
it's coming. It'll be on my list. But those two movies, I mean, the whole prequel trilogy left me completely cold, and I had high hopes for the sequel trilogy until The Last Jedi just was. And then The Rise of Skywalker is the only one of those movies that is like, they phoned it in. I mean, the prequels are ridiculous and kind of awful, but at least they were trying to do something. The Rise of Skywalker is the most cynical movie I've ever seen.
I like Andor.
Andor is wonderful. Andor is very good. I haven't gotten to season 2 yet. I've watched season 1, but season 2 is supposed to be. Have you watched all of season 2?
No, I haven't seen all that. What's the movie where it sets up A New Hope? Where they go and upload the file?
Rogue One.
Rogue One. That was a fantastic movie. That's like, that captured Star Wars to me.
Well, and I remember when Rogue One came out, it was after Force Awakens came out, and I thought, Disney really knows what they're doing. And then it just kind of collapsed. Although, have you ever seen Solo?
Yes, and I like that.
I liked it too, and that bombed, and I thought that unfairly bombed. I thought it was actually a good movie. So, all right.
Popcorn while we're talking about Star Wars.
Okay, do you want to pull up my list? I put number 9 on there.
I'm looking forward to seeing it, and number 9 is...
There it is. Caddyshack. I mean, again, Chevy Chase. There's one scene where Chevy Chase and Bill Murray have a scene together. The whole story, the behind-the-scenes story of Caddyshack is really fascinating, because there's an entirely different movie that they filmed that's entirely about the caddies and all of the big 4 guys that are in it: Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, and Ted Knight. Ted Knight, I think, had a pretty big part, but the others, Bill Murray was called in for a day, and he was going to be the groundskeeper. And the first thing they filmed was him whacking off the top of all the flowers in that big monologue. None of that was in the script. There was going to be a shot of the groundskeeper just hitting the flowers, and Bill Murray just started into the whole Cinderella story. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And it was a huge hit. And so they said, well, you stick around. And so pretty much everything Bill Murray did in that movie was improvised and added later. And Rodney Dangerfield was the same way. Although what's really funny about Rodney Dangerfield, so the first scene they filmed with him was the one where he goes into the gift shop and there's, oh, nice hat. What, you buy this hat, you get a free bowl of soup with that? He sees Ted Knight with that hat. Oh, looks good on you, though. You know, Harold Ramis tells the story. So this was Rodney Dangerfield's first movie. He was something like 60-something years old, and it's his very first movie. And he goes in, and he's really nervous after that scene. And he goes to the director, and they're like, Rodney, what's wrong? And he goes, I'm bombing out there. I'm bombing. It's like, what do you mean? You were great. Nobody was laughing. It's like, Rodney, this is a movie. They can't laugh at you because it'll be recorded. Of course nobody was laughing. You were great. And so he improvised the free bowl of soup, looks good on you, though, line. And so they all started improvising, which drove Ted Knight absolutely crazy because Ted Knight didn't do that. Ted Knight was, and so always by the script, and so many of those scenes were improvised. And so this new movie sort of morphed and replaced big chunks of the old movie about the caddies, and it became a movie about these guys. And it's really kind of disjointed. I mean, the whole story itself doesn't really hang together, but the whole is much less than the sum of its parts. Its parts are absolutely wonderful. And Bill Murray and Chevy Chase hated each other. Bill Murray had replaced Chevy Chase on Saturday Night Live. Chevy Chase had come back to host Saturday Night Live. They got in a fist fight before the show. They absolutely hated each other, and they had no scenes together. And so they got a camera crew, and they said, okay, here's, and they got a thing, here's the groundskeeper, Shaq, and Ty, who was Chevy Chase's character. You've just hit a ball into the shack. You walk in to retrieve the ball and go. That whole scene just was born out of nothing. And it's a brilliant scene. It's just, pool or a pond to be good for you. I mean, it's just the amount of freewheeling improvisational spirit that's in that movie. I don't know of any other movie. Most movies are not improvised. I saw, for instance, on your list, you have Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which I could put somewhere on my list this list may change tomorrow. That's an absolutely wonderful movie. But one of the things that Monty Python always said was they never improvised. Everything was written down way ahead of time. And there is something about, and when you're filming a movie, especially back then when you had the cost of film, now it's digital and it's all cheap, but it was expensive to improvise in front of a camera. You wanted to get the shot as quickly as possible, and improvisation was dangerous. It was a huge risk because it could stink, and then you'd have all this unusable footage. So Caddyshack just shines in a way that other movies haven't. I try to get my kids to watch it. None of them ever will, and I think it's very dated sort of humor, but it just rings my bell in a way that no other comedy like that does.
And hilarious. And when you're talking about improv, you got Best of Show. This is Spinal Tap.
Oh yeah.
There's been some great improv movies. But
Spinal Tap should be on my list. I didn't even think of Spinal Tap. I love that movie.
But I'm with you. Caddyshack, great comedy. And again, if we're making a list of top comedies, maybe that would be in my list too.
So,
and now that you're talking, maybe I should go put it on.
all right. Well, see,
Well,
we're building consensus. Let's go back to yours. You've got
mine is Avengers. And the first Avengers to me was like Superman, the way you described Superman. It was like everything a movie should be. It was everything a comic book should be. And I was watching it on the movies. There was drama. There were Thor was flying with his hammer, and Iron Man was there, and the Incredible Hulk, who's always been a favorite. It was amazing. And then what they've done with that was fantastic too. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok, which I think Thor Ragnarok is hilarious. I could watch that all the time. And then when it culminated with Endgame, it was great. I think I've watched some of the post Avengers movies and Endgame movies, and they just haven't got the same spirit. But
yeah, my nephew says that Endgame was Thanksgiving dinner, and everything else has been leftovers. And he says, and I like leftovers. I don't mind chicken soup or chicken sandwiches, but once you've had the big Thanksgiving dinner, everything afterwards is just kind of
yeah.
I am really looking forward to Fantastic Four. I'm hoping that sort of kickstarts everything. Are you familiar with the Fantastic Four at all?
Yeah. And I'm reserving judgment because the first or the middle Fantastic Four was just awful.
It was terrible. The first two Fantastic Fours were watchable, but one of the things I've always wanted to see on the big screen is Galactus. I've decided if I'm ever going to get a tattoo, it's going to be Galactus, big old Galactus head on my arm. But so far,
I'm glad it's on your arm. I was worried where you're going there with.
Yeah, it won't be on my face.
Okay, it's even better.
And Fantastic Four, growing up, was the Marvel comic book I read the most. Fantastic Four and Spider-Man. There were a bunch of Spider-Man titles that I read, but Fantastic Four, I just love those characters, and the whole Galactus Silver Surfer saga was just so iconic. And the trailers show Fantastic Four taking place in this weird sort of alternative 60s-esque universe that's like retro and futuristic at the same time. And it's got Galactus storming through Manhattan, and it's like you can give me that all day long. I really hope it doesn't suck, but from what I've seen in the trailers, it's almost as if they made that movie exactly for me. So anyway, all right.
Let's go back to you.
Go back to me.
Are you ready for number 8?
I have put it in. I'm committing the changes.
And we're there. Let's see what it is. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, The Empire Strikes Back is the reason Star Wars as a franchise exists. Because the original story was like, okay, this is amazing, this is fun, and it could have been one and done, and we could have forgotten all about it. But The Empire Strikes Back deepened all the themes, made these characters interesting, gave them, and the twist. I can remember being in the movie theater when I find out Darth Vader is Luke's father, and it was electric. There has never been a better twist in a movie than Darth Vader. The line is not, Luke, I am your father. The line is, no, I am your father. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No, I am your father. And I insisted, I was, 11, 12 when that came out? I insisted that he was lying. No, he couldn't really be his father. That couldn't really be true. It was just, it didn't compute in my brain. And my idea was, Darth Vader's just lying, and we're going to find out that he wasn't. And by the time you get to the Return of the Jedi, I ditched school to watch Return of the Jedi on opening day. And I was disappointed. And I couldn't admit that to myself or to anybody else. And there were parts of it that were lovely, but the idea that Leia was Luke's sister was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why? it all felt too pat and too simple, and it didn't. And then you wandered off into Ewoks and Han Solo, who'd had this great arc and was this all of a sudden had nothing to do. And Harrison Ford said that he argued, he's like, give this thing some weight. Han Solo has had absolutely nothing to do in this movie. Kill him off. Make him sacrifice himself and give this thing some weight. And they said, no, that you can't sell toys for a dead Han Solo. So anyway, so Empire Strikes Back, I think, is the reason Star Wars survived. And it really is. Visually, it is so striking. The lightsaber battle between Darth Vader and Luke in the Cloud City is one of the most beautiful things ever filmed. It's just so brilliantly done. And I just adore that movie.
Now, I think Marvel owes a debt of gratitude to Star Wars because they recaptured what was going on in movies when my dad was growing up in the 30s and 40s, where you had to see the next part of the movie. And so it brought back this whole serial concept of movies.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into yours here again.
Okay. We're at 30 minutes. I'm going to do 2.
All right.
I'm going to do I have one fun one and one not. Apocalypse Now. I was forced to watch that because of a college class I was taking about the Vietnam War, taught by a retired colonel just a few years after Vietnam ended. And he said that more than anything else captured what it was like being in Vietnam. I was haunted. I was entranced. And I think I've only seen the movie twice, but that movie has stuck with me like no other movie has done. The cinematography was beautiful. When the helicopters come over with, I call it the flying toaster theme. I know that's not what it is, but da 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 da, and they surf on the beach. Like everything about it was just amazing.
Didn't Robert Duvall win Best Supporting Actor for that scene? He's in the movie for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't remember, but he should have.
Yeah.
I know that there were a lot of people that saw it as anti-war and stuff, but I wanted to enlist because of that movie.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And then next one down, Young Frankenstein. I think Young Frankenstein is perfect casting. It had a perfect script, perfect cinematography, perfect comedic timing, and darn near a perfect movie.
If I want to laugh, all I have to do is watch the putting on the Ritz scene.
Fantastic. Yep.
Okay, so where did Mel Brooks go wrong? Because he had some of the most perfect, wonderful movies. He started with The Producers, which is an amazing movie.
Mm-hmm.
Adapted to a Broadway play that was a huge hit, although I think the original movie is still much better. I mean, so you got The Producers, you got Young Frankenstein, and there's a third absolute classic, and I'm trying to remember what it is.
History of the World?
I don't mind History of the World, but it's not in the same league as Young Frankenstein.
Yeah. No, Young Frankenstein is so far above everything else.
Yeah. Oh, Blazing Saddles.
Oh, okay, except for Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, Blazing Saddles.
Fantastic movie.
Absolutely perfect. And then everything else, and then he started to make some kind of mediocre movies. And then he made his late output, Robin Hood Men in Tights, I've never really been able to get through the whole thing. Dracula Dead and Loving It is just painful. Spaceballs I enjoy, although it's not really in the same league as these guys. And they're making a Spaceballs 2.
I'm looking forward to it.
What?
I'm really looking forward to that movie. I like
Spaceballs. I am too. So it will be very interesting to see what happens with Spaceballs 2. So can you hear that? They're tearing out my cabinets upstairs.
I can't hear it.
Okay, good. If it becomes distracting, please let me know. All right, so what was the next one?
So I did 2. I'll do one more. Number 6, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And It's the same thing for me as Young Frankenstein. Perfect casting, perfect script. I was a fan of Monty Python to begin with, and the way they took it, and like the coconuts and the story behind that, I know that too, but they made it hilarious. I think it still holds up better than about any old comedy movie.
Oh,
My
yeah.
kids love it. We quote it. It's like Christmas Vacation in our household. Like it's just part of our life.
I think to renew your geek card every year, you have to prove that you have that entire movie memorized. You just have to remember. My only beef with that movie is that I'm sorry, the ending just doesn't work. The end, and I understand why they did it. It's the same reason why they use coconuts. They're like, we can't afford horses, and so that's how necessity was the mother of invention, and they came up with the coconuts. But they said, look, we didn't have the resources to film that big final battle, and so the police just come and they shove their hand in front of the camera and they're done. And it's like,
Which I thought was fine because it's an absurd movie and it had an absurd ending. So
yeah, I that's
it was
that is
Monty
my
Python.
only beef with that movie. Everything else about it. And did you ever see the stage play Spamalot?
No, I have the soundtrack. I've
Yeah,
seen videos, but I have not seen actually the play.
I enjoyed it, but the things about the play that were most fun were the things that had absolutely nothing to do with the movie. Because when they recreated the scenes from the movie on stage, it just did not have. It wasn't that the actors weren't good. It's that the Monty Python universe is this really strange and forbidding place where bizarre, weird things happen. And it's very different to be standing outside a real castle and having John Cleese say, I fought it in your general direction, than it is to be sitting in a theater where everybody's cozy and warm and watch the same thing. It just changes the dynamic so much that it didn't work for me. But the songs like "You Won't Succeed on Broadway If You Don't Have Any Jews" and other sorts of things that had nothing to do with the movie and are really hysterically funny, I really enjoyed. All right, so I've added three more so we can accelerate this.
Here we go.
Oh, have I not? I have to commit. I always forget to commit. I'm going to commit my changes. So on Canonizer, when you edit a statement, you have a 1 hour grace period to make sure you can go in and re-edit it. There it is. So have you ever seen Much Ado About Nothing? With Kenneth Branagh?
Yep.
I'm a huge Shakespeare fan. Shakespeare does not work on the big screen. And the reason is when Shakespeare was written, everything had to be in the language because there were no special effects. There was no scenery. There was very little costuming. All the women were played by men. I mean, it was just it was so rudimentary that Shakespeare compensated with everything with using all the language, describing everything. And that doesn't work in a movie. And I think one of the best examples of that is also Kenneth Branagh's movie Hamlet, where he refuses to cut any of the text. And so you have these long, lengthy descriptions, and it's a 4.5 hour movie, and it's just unwatchable. So Shakespeare, I love Shakespeare, I adore Shakespeare, and I've always, but this is the only Shakespeare movie that not only works, but is just an absolute triumph. The chemistry between Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson, they were husband and wife at the time, but they're playing two of the greatest roles Shakespeare ever wrote, Beatrice and Benedict. Those scenes are just electric, and he edited it in a way that the language is still there, but the excesses are all gone. It's just the perfect Shakespeare adaptation. So I just adore that. Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, that's a movie without a flaw, as far as I'm concerned. It is a perfect movie. It is the template for every action movie that has come since. It was so innovative. I mean, you go back and watch all the practical effects, Indy being dragged under the truck, and all of that. I remember just watching that as a kid. How did they do that? And again, none of the subsequent movies. I think Last Crusade is fun. I think Temple of Doom has its moments, but is kind of unwatchable because of Willie Scott, who just screams her way through the whole movie and just makes it really painful to watch. And then the less said about the two late stage sequels, the better. I don't think they're as bad as people think they are. And I think actually the last one was better than Crystal Skull. But
Crystal Skull was not good.
Crystal Skull, I remember liking it, but it has not aged well for me. But anyway, Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's just whenever it's on, I can't. If it's always, it'll come on the background on TV, and I'll just sit down and I'll end up watching the whole thing because it just grabs you and never ever lets you go. There is never a moment. I remember watching in the theater as a kid, going, "Okay, is there time to go out and go get some popcorn?" There's never a scene where it slows down. It's just go, 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 and just has you the entire time. When Harry Met Sally is the greatest romantic comedy ever made. Again, the chemistry is perfect. I realized years later that Billy Crystal was 10 years older than Meg Ryan when they made it. And that first scene when they're both college students traveling and he's in a bad wig and she's done up her hair, it's hysterical because neither one looks anywhere near that age, but Crystal really doesn't look that age. But the dialogue in that movie just sparkles. It's my wife and I love that movie. I mean, it's her favorite movie, I think, and we watch it all the time. So there we go. So we're up to 5.
Nice. And I'm going to go back to Raiders of the Lost Ark. That had the same impact on me as Star Wars. You mentioned Superman. Like, it's just, wow, this is great. I want to come back. I thought my favorite of the series, though, is Last Crusade.
Yeah.
I think Connery just injected a whole new bit of fun into the movie. It was a fun movie. That's and like, yeah, fun. That's what I go to a movie for, to have fun.
Yes, indeed.
All right. I'm just going to finish mine out.
Okay.
So we ended with Young Monty Python, The Holy Grail. James Bond. I didn't
specify which James Bond.
And because I love all James Bond. I know there's good ones and bad ones, but if I've got them all, I can watch whenever I feel like it. If they're on TV, I'll watch them. I think GoldenEye is the best James Bond movie. I think Sean Connery, though, is the best James Bond, but overall, Daniel Craig had the best run as James Bond. And again, if it's on TV, flipping through the channels, I'm going to stop at whatever the James Bond is.
Have you gone back and watched any of the Sean Connery James Bonds lately?
Yeah, I've actually seen You Only Die Twice.
You only live twice, yeah.
And like, I was laughing. It's old and campy now.
And racist. I mean, he wears the eye prosthetics so that he can look.
Yeah, like how horribly racist is that? But going back and seeing To Rush You with Love, that still is, even though that is old, I don't think it's older than me, but like that is a good movie.
Yeah, To Russia with Love it's before James Bond. From Russia with Love, before James Bond became sort of a superhero. I mean, it's an actual grounded sort of spy thriller.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and watched all the James Bonds in order during COVID, and yeah, Sean Connery absolutely is James Bond. It is so hard to get past the misogyny. I mean, James Bond is essentially a rapist in a number of these instances. And it's painful. And then you get to Roger Moore. The very first James Bond movie I ever watched was Moonraker. which is always at the bottom of people's lists, and I loved it. It was big and Star Warsy and absolutely ridiculous, but and had nothing to do. I mean, I've since gone back to Ian Fleming and the actual inspiration, and by the time you got to Roger Moore, you were completely divorced from the source material. It became ridiculous, and it wasn't until Daniel Craig. I mean, Pierce Brosnan. Well, first of all, I liked Timothy Dalton. I thought The Living Daylights was a great movie.
Oh yeah,
and I wish he'd had a longer run. Pierce Brosnan, GoldenEye again. Yes, wonderful movie. I like Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh yeah, good one.
Largely because Michelle Yeoh was so wonderful as James Bond's sort of kung fu sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
But the last two Pierce Brosnan movies are just Die Another Day, when he's surfing down the melting glacier and his invisible car, and Pierce Brosnan did not go out on a high note. But the whole Daniel Craig run, Casino Royale. Many have argued, and I think they're probably right, that it is the best James Bond movie because it's faithful to the novel. You know, they didn't have the rights to that. That's the very first James Bond novel. It's how you found out James Bond became James Bond, and Vesper breaks his heart, which turns him sort of dark and cold. But they didn't have the rights to it, and they made a parody of it in 1967 with Woody Allen.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep,
it's really bad. But the follow-up, Quantum of Solace, is terrible. It was done during the writer's strike. They didn't really have a script. They were writing it on the fly, and it just doesn't hang together at all. And then they came back really strong with Skyfall, which I think is actually a better movie than Casino Royale. I enjoyed it more. And then Skyfall, and then Spectre was a big bloated mess. And then No Time to Die, I thought, sort of splits the difference between Skyfall and Casino Royale. I think it's in that same sort of league. Doesn't split the difference. I think it's third out of those three, but those three are absolute outstanding movies. All right, so sorry.
Okay, Tora. So James Bond, Tora. World War II movies I have a fascination with. I love documentaries. I love reading about World War II. And it just reminds me of my dad, and we'd sit and watch World War II movies. He was in World War II, and accurate depiction, and it just, again, a big movie. It's like what movies should be. Like, it was huge, larger than life. It was Ben-Hur-like.
My dad loved that movie and told the story about how they had to get they were filming an attack in the city that the attack was being filmed in. It was not historically accurate for there to be power lines, and so they made the city take down all the power lines to film just one little sequence.
Oh my gosh! Field of Dreams, also just a nice nostalgic movie and a good spirit. I think it's good actings. James Earl Jones is fantastic. It's just a fun movie. And the last one, which I should probably rate it higher, but Apollo 13 is just like the best historical movie I've ever seen. And the stories behind it, how they actually did do weightlessness on
the Vomit Comet.
Yeah. Like, even though I lived through it, knew how it was going to end, I was still on the edge of my seat going, come on. And it's like a James Bond movie. The nerds win. It's the gadgets that win. It's the smart guys that pull it out. It's not the muscular superhero. It's the fat dude at his computer.
Failure is not an option.
Yep.
Yeah. So my son is right now in Houston and doing an internship, and I went over there with him to move him in, and we went to NASA for a day. And they had one of their big shows is narrated. The history of the space program is narrated by Tom Hanks, and there's Apollo 13 all over the place. And and they talked about it there, and apparently the accuracy of that movie is really spot on. They really took great pains to make sure that accurately reflected the events.
The only thing that's different that between the book that stands out to me is in real life, he said, Houston, we've had a problem.
Yes.
On the movie, it's Houston, we have a problem.
Yes, that's correct. So,
no, and my movie list will change probably the next time I go to a movie.
Well, my movie list changed last night. We'll get into that here.
Let's see how you're doing.
All right. Did I commit to my changes this time?
There you go.
All right. Yeah. So number 4, Searching for Bobby Fischer. Do you know this movie?
Yeah. Not a fan, but
you're not a fan?
No.
Oh, I just a beautiful movie, a movie that has resonated with me for different reasons as time has passed on. Because when I first saw it, I was, it was in my 20s, early 20s, and mid 20s, I guess. But I was still young, starting out. I wasn't married yet. And so I more identified with the kid and this idea of what is it like to is it more important to be really good at something or be a good person? And that tension I thought was really interesting. And as I've watched it, as I've gotten older, I identify entirely with the parents and how they deal with their kids. I mean, the movie has just had so many layers of resonance for me. And one of the things that I think is so remarkable about it is you don't have to know anything about chess for this movie to be compelling to you. But if you're not a fan, what is it that turns you off about this movie?
I don't know. It just didn't like do anything for me. Watched it and said, okay, I'll forget it tomorrow. I'll forget it tonight.
All right. Well, yeah. So number 3 is Superman 2025, which we saw in an advanced screening last night. Superman 2025 has been the subject of a great deal of controversy because there were so many people who loved Man of Steel and were really unhappy to see Henry Cavill not get another chance at this. And I watched it last night, and it was exactly what a comic book come to life ought to be. It was, and it also was bright and fun and beautiful, and was Man of Steel had been so grim and dark.
Yeah.
And this was so fun and exciting and just delightful. And number 2, I've got the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy. Such great adaptations of such great books.
Hey, I got to say something that I have never seen any Lord of the Ring movie.
Oh gosh, Kelly!
I have never read Lord of the Ring books. I'm conversant in it, but I have never seen it. I was in New Zealand and was right there with the where they filmed it. It's a beautiful setting. I have never seen it.
Oh, well, I envy you because you now have an opportunity to see something great. My son has bought his tickets for an all-day screening of all of the Lord of the Rings movies. That's going to be next month. And so number 1 is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Thank you very much.
Can you end with your impersonation of William Shatner calling out Khan?
Khan!
That was fantastic.
So, Star Trek, the first movie sucked. Everybody thought it was over. And then they came back with not only the best Star Trek movie, but really one of the best movies of all time. A meditation on life and death. So I was showing my kids Star Trek movies when they were young. And my son, Sam, we watched Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and he was so broken up about Spock's death that we had to watch Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, where they find him and bring him back to life the very next day. So anyway, those are the greatest movies, our favorite movies. We didn't draw blood. This is nice.
No, and like with I can't think of anything except for Bobby Fischer. I agree with almost everything.
All right. Lovely.
I'm looking forward to you saying, and I agree with most of what you said too.
I agreed pretty much with everything you said. There was
Nice!
a movie on your list
Holy
I didn't
crap,
like.
what consensus have we built? Like, I'm looking at the picture here that we use for the title here. Like Toy Story, I would put that on my
Yeah.
list. Like the
Dark
Godfather. Why wouldn't the Godfather be on it? Because I've only got 10.
Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, there's some great movies. So, all right. Well, with that, we will leave you. We just under an hour. So all is well. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time on Consensus with Canonizer. Thank you
Put
very
your
much.
favorite movies on here.
Yes, everybody, please get on here and put on your favorite movies.
Let's see where we can build consensus.